Kia ora koutou. Welcome to South Pacific Muscle. And today we've got a guest that's come on kind of out of the blue, really. I had a young guy message me and he said, can I please come on your podcast when I weigh 100 kilos? And I sort of laughed and thought, well, we haven't really got a weight limit. And I said, look, man, if you want to come on our podcast, come on our podcast. And there are a few reasons that I really want to get this guy on. First of all, his name's Rocco and he's from Gore. And I think that's pretty fucking cool, man. It's like, what do you do? I'm Steve. I'm a fucking diesel mechanic. I'm Rocco from Gore. So anyone Rocco from Gore, absolutely coming on my podcast. But no, the real reason I wanted to get Rocco on was that, our podcast is about being really positive about bodybuilding, and it's about including people in our sport. And we're all fucking old. I mean, even Tom, I look at Tom and I call him the younger generation of bodybuilding, but he's even looking down now and seeing the new men coming through. And so for me, it was kind of interesting to say, hey, let's get someone on who is, the same age as my kids, that is really into bodybuilding, and see how he's influenced and what his goals are. The second reason I really wanted to get Rocco on was that when I asked him to tell me a little bit about himself, he had some pretty fucking lofty aspirations. And, I'm always one that supports people with big goals. Some people rubbish people for having big goals and say you'll never get there, you'll never make it and all that kind of thing. But I think there's so many of us now that are getting to the tail end of our bodybuilding days and think, what if I'd backed myself? What if I hadn't told myself it was too difficult? And Rocco's got some pretty big goals. And look, he's teenage bodybuilder. He's competed, I think, twice, 2 NABBA shows, 219. Yep. I asked him what his favourite bodybuilders are because I was actually really interested to see. And gets my nod of approval. The first names he rattled off were Arnold, Jay, and Franco. So I like that. He was also a big fan of Callum from Aussie and Chris Bumstead. So he's a fan of classic physique. His goals, he's told me that his aim is to win at the Nationals. So he's got pretty big goals for next year. He also wants to become a pro bodybuilder. So that's a phenomenal aim, to say, as a 17-year-old, I want to be a pro bodybuilder. I don't think I would have dared to dream that at 17 years old. So he's got some pretty big goals. And on the back of that, he'd love to move to Santa Monica in the States and wants to get into a bit of acting. So welcome on board, Rocco. Good to have you here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, that's awesome, man. And we've also got Tom Shaw. Now, the reason I asked Tom on is that Tom has the experience of being the young fella. I knew Tom when he was 18, 19, I think, when he first coming into the gym and became the youngest pro. So he's got a really good insight into what it's like and the commitment required to become a pro. And then he's also had that opportunity to step on the pro stage and can comment on that. So welcome on board, Tom.
Thank you for having me again, guys. It's awesome to be on.
Yeah, always good to have you here, man. Hey, look, we might hit some quickfire questions, Rocco, and just find out a little bit about your training and how you approach things currently. So, Mike, do you want to hit us with some quickfires?
Yeah, let's get some stats in there, Rocco. How tall are you, and what's your current off-season weight?
6'2" and 92 kilos.
Oh, okay, yeah, tall like me. Yeah, you've got it all ahead of you. Right, so let's talk off-season. Are you tended to duty bulk, or do you try and stay lean in the off-season when you're growing?
Well, no matter how many calories I can really pack down, I've always got striations on my shoulders ever since I started training, really, So, no choice, really.
Yeah, that's reminiscent. I remember being a teenager and just not being able to pack enough food away to even put a kilo on, and then as soon as you skip a meal or have a bad week, then or a bad night, then the kilo's gone again. With your diet, how well structured are you with your diet? Do you go high protein, high fat, high carb, or just try and shovel as much food of any type in?
Well, I've just recently started being coached by Denver Chandy.
Nice.
So really it's just on training days, a lot of carbs, a lot of protein. Off days, a lot of protein and a lot of veggies.
Right. Okay, so sort of a carb cycling approach, essentially. High carb on your training days, low carb on your off days. Yeah, cool. And the training, I assume he's doing your training as well. He's got your high volume, high intensity.
Bit of both, really. It's pretty much a bro split with, there's one compound exercise, do low reps, and then everything else, accessories, really high reps, just pumping blood into the muscle. When I first started training, I went straight in and did Arnold Schwarzenegger's Olympia workouts and just killed myself, really. So it's a good change.
Yeah, we had a bit of a chat about that on the intensity techniques. I was the same. And I imagine you're similar to me. Tall, started out pretty slim, and doing those sort of 25 sets per body part just eats the muscle away. You've got to kind of take a high intensity approach. So your last competition in 2019, how well structured were you with your diet? Did you cut hard and fast, or did you come in nice and slow to preserve muscle?
Well, really, I thought at the time I was just a skinny runt, so I started the first half of the cut just trying to bulk up and put a wee bit more mass on. And but then the other half, perfect. It went really well, came in really conditioned, but really skinny.
So I guess that kind of goes back to, I guess, the bit before your first competition. When did you kind of start lifting, and how long was it between that and when you decided you wanted to compete?
I'd say probably about 13, I got a set of dumbbells and started just lifting in my room. My uncle showed me some exercises and stuff. So that was really good. Then I got a gym membership, but I lived half an hour out of town, so trained about once a week. And then I saw the NABBA poster in my gym and decided that's what I want to do, because I already knew I wanted to be like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I just didn't put the effort in. And that really kickstarted everything. Training 6 days a week, sometimes twice a day, just munting myself, really.
Yeah, I remember those days too. Maybe if I train twice as much, I can get twice as big, twice as fast.
If only it were that easy.
So you started lifting about 13, sort of progressively got a bit more into it, and then decided to do this competition. So you started, right, I've got to prep for the competition. First thing you did is start eating a bit more to try and fill out a bit. And then you started cutting calories or doing cardio, or both?
Bit of both. Well, I still really don't have that much idea about calories and stuff, especially now that Denver just does it for me. I really just started slimming down the amount of food I was having, but still eating regularly. And I wish I cut out carbs instead of fats, but I did it the other way around. So, but that led to good workouts still. So I was having a good time just training, preparing for the show.
Yeah, so I guess that kind of the big question I had when I knew you were coming on was, there's so much information available now compared to when I was in my teens. How do you assimilate that information and process it, sort of critically evaluate? Do you sort of experiment with everything and find out what works for you? Do you kind of take advice from particular sources? How you got on board, sort of put it all in his hands. Prior to that, how did you sort of process that information?
Well, when I first started training, it was obviously Arnold Schwarzenegger. What he said was the law. And I still somewhat agree with that because, similar body structure, similar height. I figured that might come into play somehow. But mostly the advice I get, I mostly take the advice from people I know in person that I know are successful in the sport, such as Connor Warnock, the under 19 IFBB champion in 2019. He's a good mate of mine, and doing stuff like that just helped me out a lot. And I started packing on size after researching stuff like that.
Nice. And I guess you've come up to the lofty heights of 92 kilos, so you're certainly making progress there. Now, getting on to the performance side of things. Now, you won the Best Poser Award at the Nationals in 2019.
Well done.
Yep. So were you sort of drawn to that sort of performance aspect of it? I mean, with the acting goals as well, you like being up in front of people, like the stage side?
Yeah, I've always found that side quite easy. Also, I just love going back watching the old 70s videos of the posing was just phenomenal, and the music, it just played so well. And really, I just took notes from everyone, and that's what got me that award.
Nice.
Who are your favourite posers?
I'm forgetting his name now. I knew this would happen. Well, Arnold, obviously. I love the twisting double back shots to hide the thick waist. It's just also smart. Currently, I quite like Logan Franklin. He's got some cool poses in there. Chris Bumstead's vacuum.
How confident is Logan Franklin?
He's too confident. He is going to be
to
top
roll
10.
out with a Logan is numero uno shirt.
Yeah, I comment on that. He needs to shut the fuck up.
Oh, it was kind of cool. It was kind of cool. Funny, but
no. Number one at New York, wasn't it?
Oh, look, I don't follow them well enough to know, but I've seen a few of his recent photos, and he actually fucking looks really sharp. Has got some crazy lines in his legs at the moment. So
he looks amazing, but he's not at Breon or Chris's level yet.
Yeah, Rocco, come on then. So you've only got your favourites are only classic guys or old guys, from the old era.
That's not true.
Who are your bodybuilders? Because so far I've heard old, and then classic. We need the new ones.
Okay. Well, love Jay Cutler. He's an absolute legend.
Retired for newish.
Definitely Ronnie. Big Rami's always fun to watch on stage. Just huge and freaky. And I've got good hopes for Phil this year as well, if he gets that gut under control.
You didn't watch our one, did you, of the predictions?
No, I didn't.
Oh, man.
I watched the one with Anthony in it, but that was it.
How fucking mixed up is everyone's predictions now, given the latest photos and Dennis James's comments? And I'm kind of like,
I think the photo that Brandon put up with that hamstring pop.
Oh, it's crazy.
He's deliberately shown that side shot because obviously being one of his weaker poses, you're going to see that hamstring and go, okay, that's a more developed leg. But then the question is, if that's that developed, what the fuck does his leg look front on?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the thought that's going through my head, is if he's brought those legs up and his upper body is even bigger than last year.
Yeah, his back's looking crazy too.
You even heard Jay on Fawad's podcast saying about how Phil, there's the possibility Phil could be off and not what he was. So if those
definitely is.
If those top guys are questioning it, I think it's going to be. I'm hella excited. I'm hella excited to see it.
It's going to be a good Olympia. Great Olympia.
Phil was fairly confident today at the press conference. Fucking press conference was really cool. I really enjoyed it. So sorry, we've gone miles off topic, but it's that time of year. So look. So let's go back to. Sorry, Mike.
I don't think you have any choice but to be sort of ambitious and back yourself, do you? No. I mean, I remember first time getting up on stage, I was kind of going, "Oh my goodness, look at these guys! Can I just go home and sneak out the back?" But right before I went on stage, there's no point in walking out there going, "Hey, look, sorry guys, my physique's not really what I want it to be, but this is the best I could do. Sorry." So you put on this persona that you're the man, you're Arnold or you're whatever, and you walk out and just own the stage, whether you feel it or not. Do it, right? So, Logan Franklin with the numero, good on him, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you, Rocco, the same kind of thing, right? You're on your way, you can be pro, right?
Well, this is the first time I've actually told really anyone, eh?
It's good. I think Dave Neathy came on, the mental skills performance coach. If you haven't watched that podcast, Rocco, go watch that, man. It's really cool. And he talked about giving yourself permission to be great. And the other thing he also talked about, which just popped into my head, Mike, was that he talked about people creating a persona for themselves. And he talked about Israel creating the last style bender. And I guess, you know, you create this little alter ego that comes out on stage. And, you know, I know what mine is, and it's the same that I kind of use for when I got into public speaking and that. And, you know, I have this little mental thing that goes through my head before I go out there that, hey, this is my time. These people are paid to come and see me, and I'm going to put on the fucking Nate show for them. And that's what goes through my head. And then I go out there and I have my little moment and a lot more confident than what I generally am as a person. So, you know, we all have these little things that we do. And by giving yourself permission to be great and saying, look, I want to be a pro, I think is, kudos to you, man, for saying it. And I think it's not an easy road. So I think from a reality point of view, Tom, do you want to talk us through what it was like when you first decided you wanted to be a pro bodybuilder? Because I know right from the start you were one that you were going to be a bodybuilder. There was fucking nothing else that you were going to be a bodybuilder. And then tell us about your journey to actually achieving that pro card and some of the things that you went through.
Yeah, so a lot like Rocco. I think it was 17. I think it was 17 I met you, Nate, at Les Mills. I think that was the year that my rugby career of what I hoped to be something great came crashing down around me from a brain injury. And then I remember with my brother one day just watching a video of Dorian training. And I turned to him and I said, I want to look like that. I was always intrigued, and I used to train, and I was always intrigued with being, you know, a big rugby player, a stature, a figure on the pitch. And then when I saw Dorian, I was like, no, my direction's been in the wrong place. That's the place it needs to go towards. And I think, like, I think all of us here, we all saw a poster for our first show and went, you know what, I'm going to put my hat in there and I'm going to see how it turns out. I remember dieting for it at school, not knowing a single thing what to do. I actually had the help of Steve Campbell. Nate, you'll remember Steve. And he helped me with the last 6 weeks of my prep. And very similar, I was playing rugby at the time, so I was still very lean. I was eating everything and anything because my metabolism was just firing. And then Steve cut me down to just chicken and broccoli the last little bit to tighten me up. And I remember him saying to me, you can go have a cheat meal if you want. Go have a cheat meal. And I was like, oh, sweet cheat meal. Didn't understand what that meant. So I'd get like a bread roll and like a tiny little stick of chocolate, and I'd eat that and be like, yeah, that was mean. And I would like have that would be it. And then it kind of just progressed. So I won that first show. And after winning the first show, I mean, the nerves for that first show were absolutely unreal. And then that's kind of where I slowly learned, like we're talking about, that alter ego. My alter ego is I'm the baddest motherfucker in this room, and everyone in that crowd is cheering for me and only me. I don't know, Nate, if you've noticed this, but when I walk out on stage, I actually walk out like Flex Wheeler. I like do the Phil Flex Wheeler, the arm swing, like the strut towards the center stage. And that moment I hit that stage, it's I'm badass Tommy. I'm Tommy Gunshaw. This is my stage. And I developed that from like maybe second and third show. And then it just kept progressing from there. I did my second show and I tried to do my diet myself. And I came in heavily overweight. And then the third show, I did the same thing. And then Taryn actually was like, come and see me on your way home from the show. I remember that was the first time I lost, and I never, ever had lost at anything. I'm that person who is first or nothing. And I'm happy to admit that after losing that show and coming second to someone who was deserved to win, I actually cried for 4 hours. And it hit me so fucking hard that I'd lost to something for the first time ever. And I was like, this is never happening again. So I drove home from Hamilton and I was outside Taryn's house at 9 o'clock in the morning the next morning. And she hadn't even had her first client yet. And I was like, you told me to be here. I'm here. What are we doing? We've got 3 weeks to nationals. And then that was it. I won the teenage nationals. Then I won the junior nationals. I took a year off, won Mr. New Zealand. And in between, after winning junior Mr. New Zealand, I won the Arnold Classic. And then when I won the overall Mr. New Zealand, I finally applied for my pro card, and that's when I got it.
What age were you when you got your pro card granted?
22.
So you'd had basically 5 years of training, which is a fucking pretty short stint you know, to
Yeah.
get to that point. But during that 5 years, you know, people look at it and go, fuck, 5 years isn't long for a 17-year-old, you know, and Rocco's probably going, you know, I'm 17. In that 5 years, because I know that most guys your age were out drinking piss in Ponsonby Road and partying and doing all those things, but you're in the gym or you're at home eating. Tell us during that 5 years what sacrifices you had to make to get to that point.
In the 5 years, I sacrificed relationships. I sacrificed friends. I mean, it's kind of weird to say it now, but from there till now, not having a social life is something that has been there the whole time. If I do have one, it's there's a very small amount of people that I actually interact with because they understand where I'm going with this. So I sacrificed friendships. Every Christmas, apart from one in that first 5 years, I was dieting. And my birthday is 10 days before Christmas. So every year I wouldn't have birthday. I wouldn't have Christmas. New Year's Eve, I always had this thing that whilst all of you are out partying, I will be in the gym putting in the work because I know where I'm going. So every New Year's Eve at midnight, I would be in the gym either doing cardio or training. So every year, every plan, I missed out on family events, dinners. If we went out for dinner, I would bring my food and I would eat my food. I mean, I still do that to the day, but I think some people don't realize the level that you have to go to even gain that 2-3%, let alone the pro level.
Interesting, that New Year's thing. I used to have this little thing about training on New Year's Day, and I was like, while you guys are hungover, lying around fucking piss crook, and all those people I've competed against, because they still want to have a New Year's out, I'd be in there and I'd train twice as hard, so I'd get 2 up on you. And you know, as I've got older, I've kind of gone, you know, not so important for me to do that. But like, you know, I'm the same. My birthday and Christmas and then that sort of period, and dieted through it. And it, to me, it doesn't become a sacrifice further down the track. But then you kind of think about some of the times that you've missed out, and with friends and family when you could have been out doing things to achieve what you want to achieve. But it's what's important to you, and you've created that reality. And I guess, Rocco, is that something that you're looking at doing over the next 5 years? Can you see yourself heading down that pathway?
Oh, it's something I've already been doing, well, last year before Nationals, my birthday was, I think, 5 days before. Nothing happened, but I knew it was worth it. Even though I came dead last, I just knew it was worth it because I was on that path, you know?
Yeah, cool. People say, like they said to me this year, what did you do for your birthday? Did you do anything special? And I said, deadlifts. So, you know, and look, to me, it was fun because, you know, if we didn't like it, we wouldn't fucking do it. Let's be fair, you know? So, I mean, yes, we suffer and yes, we give up things, but, you know, for those people that really love the sport, it's not actually a huge hardship, other than the fact that you do miss out on a lot of time with friends, family, and loved ones, and you miss a lot of events.
From the outside looking in, it probably looks like a massive sacrifice. When you're in it, it's not that much of a sacrifice because the lifestyle that you created for yourself.
I think as you get older, like I know it's crazy. I'm an old man now. Now, as you get older, I think you start to realize that things aren't here forever, and that you need to sometimes appreciate the people that are around you. Which is going into that whole having balance and making time for those things. When I was younger, I was like, I would dismiss all of it and be like, no, it's okay. I need to do this. If you don't agree with it, we'll have an argument, and I'm going to go do it anyway, and we won't hang out, or I won't see my family, or I won't, if my sister is visiting, I won't go to the family dinner because I'm busy doing this, and they can just understand it. But I think as you get older and you mature as a person, you realize that time isn't infinite. There's a cap on it, and everything can be fit in around it. And the sacrifices, you're sacrificing stuff, but they're sacrificing seeing you. So you have to kind of, at a certain point, start working them both in together. And I think as Nate's got older, Nate's realised that, and now I'm starting to realise it as well. I'm still stubborn, and I'll still be like at some point, nah, fuck this. This is what I'm doing. But I'm trying to kind of do both now.
Yeah.
I think when you're creating that new reality for yourself or that new lifestyle, you feel like you've got to be very, very strict because you're kind of creating new habits. Once you're in those habits, you can, I guess, be a little bit more flexible because one off-plan meal for a week is not the end of the world. But if you're really early on and setting up those routines, you start having off-plan meals, that snowball effect. Once you're in the routine and you're on plan 98% of the time, that other 2% is not going to have a massive impact on your progress.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's about, creating the lifestyle and the habits. And once they're established, like for you and I, Mike, we've been doing the same shit for, I think it was, I worked out I had a gym. I had a gym membership. I had a gym membership for 30 years the other day. So I think I had 33 years training. And so, they become very ingrained, and you're right. If I go, right, in 5 days is something, so I'm going to go and do that, which means I'm going to have to move a workout and I'm going to have to fuck around with my macros a little bit, but the next day you're back to normal. Whereas if you were someone, very early on in your career and you had to do that, it would be a big drama and fucking, you dwell on these things. But because we've dealt with the hiccups in the road in the past, it's become a, pretty easy sort of path once it's been established. So pro bodybuilding now, Tom. So just for Rocco, he's fucking dead keen to be a pro bodybuilder. 5-year journey, a lot of sacrifices to get to the pro card. What's the reality?
Potentially a little bit longer for Rocco at 6'2". There's a lot of frame to fill out there, eh?
It might do. I'm only 5 foot, I think 10. I'm only 5'10" when I've, when it's warm and I've expanded a little bit when it's cold.
I took 10 years putting on 50 kilos of off-season weight to win a novice IFBB title. So 10 years, 5 kilos a year.
Everyone's body, I think everyone's body genetically, we all know this, they grow faster. Some grow, and I think that's where that top percentile of bodybuilders, that top 0.1, they're those ones that they have a tiny amount of food, a tiny amount of supplements, and a tiny amount of training. They will respond a lot faster than anyone else. And in terms of going from an amateur to a pro, there's a couple of people who have really instilled this in me, and that's Mike Kingsnorth is one of them. And he's always said, you will be a good amateur, and when you jump to pro, you will be a shitty pro. All right, there is a very big gap between amateur and pro, and you don't see it from the outside because you see some guys who come from an amateur level and go to pro, and they're already, like Nick. Yeah. Nick is the same age as me, and he jumped from an amateur and went straight into the top 6 finish as a pro.
Well, we see guys like Nick and Hunter and people like that, and and they're really walking into the pro ranks with a competitive pro physique. Whereas for most people, you get to that top of the amateurs, and then the reality is that there's a huge it's like the Grand Canyon, really, isn't it? And you've got to close it up. So
I mean, if anyone thinks that to turn pro, you need to look like you could be one. That's fair. There's a fair point to say. But I think if anyone would turn around and say, no, you need to be a pro to turn pro. You need to be my size. You need to be the Phil Heath size to turn pro. Just go and have a look at Ronnie. If you do your research, Ronnie started out at the very, very lowest rungs of a pro career. He actually finished in the same place I finished in my first show, and then periodically worked his way up. A lot of people do that. A lot of top pros have done that. They never started out at the top. So Mike was always one person to remind me of that. And then when it came time, after having a few years off, I did take a little bit of time off just to reset mentally because of how long I had pushed for. And by the time I came into saying, this is the pro show I'm going to do, it was a completely different level of dedication. Completely different. It was a completely different level of training. I was a bit of an asshole in the gym, I'm not going to lie, because it was meant so much to me being my first show. Not many people could talk to me. I was pushing people aside. I was really in my zone. I spent a lot of time, because I had actually moved away from Auckland. I spent a lot of that time by myself in my own head, doing everything I needed to do to make sure I could get there. And then when I got on the plane, I felt very confident about myself. And Rocco, hopefully one day you turn pro and you'll have the same feeling of, I'm finally here, I've finally cracked it. And then you will realize when you get there what everyone has been telling you about that gap. I don't know, on the last podcast, I was actually saying I got mistaken for a pro men's physique because I was training with Ian, and Ian made me look like a baby. Like, Ian made me look like a child next to him. I could have been his son, a very small child. And then you realize, hanging around with these guys, that there is there are levels to the game. And you hear Ian, because I got to speak with all of them. And that's the great thing about it is, and this is why I love this podcast as well, is bodybuilding is everyone thinks it's not, but it's an inclusive sport, and every single pro will give you all of their attention if you ask for it. If you stand there with them, they'll tell you everything you want to know. Ian and Nathan Diasha both competed. The first pro show they competed at, they were 226 pounds, I believe they were saying to me. So they weren't big at all. Now, if you think about that, and now you see where Ian is now and where Nathan is, that's how you see that periodic jump. So although I might have turned up and placed 14th in Vancouver at my first pro show, I did it. I didn't sit around with a pro card and say, I turned pro. Because the way I see it, and the way a couple other people see this, is you're not a pro just because you have the card. You're only a pro once you stamp that ticket for that first one. And then you're a pro from there. So doing it, now realizing there is a whole bigger thing here, it's only opened my eyes to how much harder I have to work in myself, and how much I thought I was actually pushing, but how much there is more. And I think you will, Rocco, you'll see this as you go on. When you see these bigger guys and when you start getting up there, you're going to start realizing, when I was 17, I thought I was training hard, but now my perspective is I'm killing it. And back then I was just fucking around. And
Tom, real interesting you say that, because Rocco, you talked about when you first started training and you thought you were doing, going all out, doing, what you'd learnt from watching others. And then once you started training under Denver, sorry, I was going to say Dexter, sorry. Once you started training under Denver, you probably noticed the jump in the intensity. Did you?
Yeah. League day. That was this morning.
Yeah.
Killed me.
Yeah, and it's real interesting because like that realization happens to you over and over and over again. Like, as I say, I've been training for 33 plus years, and I just went from progressive overload, and we've started throwing in some intensity stuff. And I sat in my workout the other day sitting on the cable row machine, and I had my head down, and I was just kind of fucked. I was just like, and then it kind of dawned on me. I'm like, fuck, I'm just training so much fucking harder than I was 2 weeks ago. And 2 weeks ago, I was thinking, fuck, this is the hardest I've ever trained in my life. So you have these jumps, and if I look back at where I started to what I'm doing now, your capacity to train hard and more intensely and get a better result just levels up repeatedly over time. And so I guess it is a very progressive thing for most people. So, yeah.
You think some of that's being accountable to someone else? Sign on with a coach, and the coach is saying, beat your numbers, and every week check in with them.
Yeah, there's a bit of that there, because I don't, I look up to Jamie, and literally he's fucking about 1.5 foot taller than me. And I don't want to let him down, and I kind of look at it and go, I've got X amount of time left in the sport, and I want to achieve what I want to achieve. I pay €200 a fucking month, so I don't want to waste that money on a coach that I'm not listening to. But I've always been accountable to myself as well. But I guess now it just adds another level to it. So, like I was sitting there thinking, fuck, I just can't finish this workout. Mate, I'm low on carbs. Fucking been dieting for 22 weeks. Fucking, if I just fuck it, Nathan, get your shit together and go and finish that fucking workout, and I would do that regardless if I was reporting my training back to someone else or it was to myself. But I think having that other person there probably just adds to that slightly. I think if you haven't got it, you haven't got it. It doesn't matter if you've got a coach or you haven't got a coach, you're never going to fucking do it. You've got to want it from inside. And I think, to me, I guess, I look at Rocco, and if I look at, where he's sitting at the moment and some of his early photos, it doesn't scream, I'm going to be a pro bodybuilder. But that's not how I judge people. Like, what I judge people is from, and the way I think that if they're going to be successful or not, well, first I look if they've got calves and shoulders. But other than that, it's all about heart. And I think if you've got a fucking big heart and you're prepared to fucking grind and sacrifice and, fucking throw yourself in front of the fucking bus every fucking time you get in there. And, that to me is what makes a successful person in any aspect of life, be it business, be it bodybuilding, someone that's got fucking ticker, so I think that goes a long way. So, yeah,
that is it. It honestly is that. It's I think everyone looks at me when they speak to me and they go, you're this, you're that, and to me, I'm still just me.
Yeah,
I'm still just that same. But I think what has got me to that point is, and it's quite funny, I was just bringing up like all of my old wins, is being that one who wakes up at 5 a.m. and goes and stands on that stair machine for an hour every morning, even though you don't want to, getting up and you feel like death, you just don't want to get up, but getting up and doing it, finished drenched in sweat, knowing, you know what, these pricks ain't gonna catch me. I'm gonna outwork everyone. And it's like, that is really the essence of how I have got to here, and how Rocco will get there, and how Nate, you got to winning this, and how Mike, you got there. And I think everyone sees this outside picture, but doesn't see it's those little battles that you have within yourself of, no, I don't want to do that extra rep, as opposed to, fuck it, I'm going to do 2 extra reps because I know I can, and I know if I don't, someone else is going to beat me. Or I know I can go. I got to the point with Matt, when I prepped for my pro debut, that I was dropping 400-500 grams daily. I would weigh in every morning, and it was my goal to make sure that it continued to drop. And my only goal and my only job was to get up, do that fucking cardio, and then go in the gym after work and lift as hard and as with everything I had, so that the next morning I could wake up and do it all again. And I think that's really the essence to achieve anything in this sport, is just daily doing that shit. Those little battles with yourself, choosing the victory over the defeat,
It's funny that mind game. I love the fucking mind game, because like I often sit there, whether it's when I'm dieting and I'm low in carbs and I'm struggling, or if I'm training and I'm just fucked, and I sit there and in my head I think, oh man, I can't do this. Fuck, I could just, and I almost let myself go down a path of, I should just get my stuff and go. And then I go, fuck you. And I, because I enjoy overcoming that little battle in my head and getting out there and smashing the next set and going, easy win, And
there was a really cool section on one of Thread's podcasts about where he's discussing why we do bodybuilding, and most people think it's because we want to have this big physique, we want to walk around and strut our stuff and go, look at my muscles. But I'm more proud of the mental side of it. I'm more proud of the discipline that it takes. That times that I say that people say, I could never do what you do. Well, you could. You just need a good enough reason. I choose to discipline myself that way, and so I'm more proud of the not so much what you can physically see, but in the mental challenges that I overcome and the self-discipline that I kind of put myself through. That's what attracts me and probably a lot of people to bodybuilding, rather than the having. If you're focused on the end result, I just want that body, then you're probably not going to get there. You've got to kind of love the grind. You've got to love the mental challenge. You've got to love overcoming those challenges to get the body in the end.
You've got to love the suffering. That's the aim of the game when you're dieting. love the suffering, and just embrace everything that gets thrown at you. If they say no carbs, no carbs. It's just, okay, sweet. It's another day to get leaner. It's another day to get this or that. And like, Rocco, if you learn anything from this, and I know Denver, because Denver is a great guy, and me and Denver go way back. Denver will teach you the same thing. If you can learn to embrace every single aspect of the sport and learn to embrace the highs, the lows, and to realize that with the lows, especially in prep, come a high at the end of it. If you suffer for long enough and you push yourself hard enough, you are going to reap the reward. And it may seem at the time like, oh, fuck, it's too much. I just can't do it anymore. But that's what everyone else in their head is thinking. And it's the ones who go, nah, fuck it, you can do it. I'm going to do it. And if you do that, bud, 100%, those dreams of yours turning pro will come a reality. It's just, you've got to stick at it long enough. Muscle doesn't grow overnight. I've been doing it 10 years now and I'm still nowhere big enough. Nate's been doing it 33 years. He's been doing it longer than I've been alive.
I know. It's tragic, isn't it? No, we love it though. You know, it's a thing. I think anyone who does well in the sport just fucking loves it, you know. And I think I watched Phil Heath speak today at the press conference, and I've never been a fan of Phil's personality, but today I went, you know what? Maybe that year off did him fucking good because he spoke really well. But the thing that grabbed me was he said that, you know, his reason for coming back was because he fucking missed it and he loved the fucking sport. You know, I'm paraphrasing him, but
yeah.
That, and I think, you know, and I think early on, and I think, you know, Rocco, you give me the impression that you fucking love the sport. And if you've got that love of the sport, it's not something that ever goes away. You know, like I can be a crippled old man. I'll still be in the gym.
Still be in the gym. Like Ronnie.
Yeah, absolutely. Great example, you know, of just, I don't know, they talk about the iron bug biting you, and it's certainly, you know, fucking it's definitely got me and Mike. I know that, and Tom's fucking well on his way. But I hope it's been a bit of an insight hearing how Tom's journey, and what are your thoughts going forward, Rocco?
Oh, it's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
It doesn't change my mind on anything, of course. It's just reaffirming what I already believe in. And that's a lot of extra motivation that's going to get me where I want to go.
Me. Okay, so Rocco's page here, Rocco Saunders, as you can see there, best posing coach, and at 17 doing some, best posing performance, and he's doing some posing coaching. So if you're down those ways and you want to do some posing coaching, and he's put up a couple of photos for us. You're looking better than I did at 17, bro. I've got to tell you that. You look a shit ton better than I ever did at that age. And
it's hard to put on the size when you're that tall.
Yeah, I like this next photo. This photo of your back though. This one here. Fuck, you got nice long lats, bro.
Yeah, thank you.
And you know, like you're heading in the right direction. It's just about slamming some fucking mass on that. So
yeah,
no doubt, Denver and you will work on that, and we'll see some update photos in the next 6 months or so, and see what you can put on, because you've got. You know, you got youth on your side, so you should be able to make some crazy kind of gains. Tom, you trained right through that period at that age. How did you grow at that age?
How did I, from 17 through?
Yeah, just in that, like, late teen years.
From late teens, I started at like 95 kilos, and I ended up at 117. Wow. So it came.
Started at 95. Wow.
But that was already training for rugby when I started bodybuilding. Yeah. From start, 75 kilos. So I put on 50 kilos in the first 2.5 years, and that was my diet. The secret to putting that weight on is a kilo of mince, a packet of pasta, and a ciabatta bread. I did it every day, and then 2 scoops of mutant mass and a tub of yogurt for your snack as well. That's how you get big.
Hey, Rocco, one thing I like about what you're doing is you're doing those big movements. You know, I had a look earlier on, and I saw you doing some stiff legs. I saw you doing barbell rows, all those staples. You know, I
love my rows.
Yeah, you're not pissing around doing a lot of the flowery stuff like we see a lot of a lot of the young guys. We've got a couple of young bodybuilders here, and I'm kind of not sure. This might be, I don't know. I sometimes feel like if I give advice to someone training, I'm going to come across like a no fuckwit. So sometimes I just shut up, but I see guys doing, you know, giant sets with all these tiny weights, and I'm just thinking, you know, you're young, you need to put on some mass, just do some basics, hit some basic compound movements, and it's good to see you doing them. So, you know.
I don't actually have much choice. My gym's got very limited equipment. Only one gym in Gore.
Probably going to benefit you, to be honest. You know, once you find a gym full of machines, you'll just want to play with them all like we do.
Yeah, exactly. I've actually, if you look at that leg press video, that's in Invercargill. So sometimes I drive down there just to play around with some of the fun stuff.
Dedication, man. Nice.
Yeah.
Good on you. Right, we will hand over to Rocco to do a bit of shout out to some of his crew and those people that support him. So Rocco, the floor's yours.
Oh, sweet. Biggest shout out, Denver Chandy. Great coach so far. I've only been with him for a couple of weeks, but it's been great to deal with. Connor Warnock, amazing influence to me. That's probably about it. Oh, Anthony Morris as well, definitely. He's helped me out a lot.
Good old Ants. Yeah, I see. I saw your page, and I see you got Paris and Ants following you. So you got the right people fucking paying attention. Awesome. Hey, look, we're going to call it a wrap, guys. But thank you, Tom, for coming on and sharing your knowledge and you know, experience going up into the pro ranks. And look, Rocco, all the very best from us, man. Keep your goals high, bro. And we'll look forward to watching your journey. And when we see you on stage, you'll hear me, because I'm going to go Rocco from Gore.
I'm looking forward to that.
Forever, bro. Look, stay safe, people, and we will catch up with you soon.